Hey guys, it's Katie K, and I wanted to introduce you to Archimedes. He's so tired. My puppy, Archimedes, this week for my episode of Truth Talks. I wanted to tell you a story about my little guy here, my best friend, Archimedes. And I love him so much. How he single-handedly is responsible for teaching me one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in trust and surrender. This little guy here, this little one, who is basically like my son, over the summer last year, managed to get himself poisoned. He's sort of like a cat, and he's had a couple of near-death experiences now, and I've had to take him to the emergency room not once but twice for two different incidences. And this particular one was really scary because he was foaming at the mouth and he was going into seizures and he stopped breathing. And in the car, I knew that I was losing him. I knew that things were not looking good for my little boy. Yes, this little boy right here. And my heart was breaking, but I knew that there was a lesson in it, and that lesson was non-attachment, and you know, I had to let him go. And it was one of the hardest things in the world to do, but I could feel his little heart stopping, and I could feel that he couldn't breathe anymore. And so I did what I knew best. I did what my teacher taught me, and I whispered in his ear, "I love you, and if you need to go, you know, go. I love you. Goodbye." And in that moment, he stopped breathing. And the minute I said goodbye, it was like the angels sent him back to me, and he went, and he took another breath, and he came back. And it almost felt like the moment that I let him go, that was the very thing that allowed him to return to me. But that didn't mean that he was out of the woods. And so I took him to the hospital, where they took him from me and where they kept him in the ICU for 3 days. We didn't know what was wrong with him. We just knew that he was seizing very badly. And again, I had two choices. I could panic and worry about what was going to happen to my sweet boy, and cry and say, why did this happen? And I wasn't even home when he got sick. He was at my parents' house, and you know, and go into victim mode, but I didn't. And again, I did what I knew best, what my teacher taught me, and I went back to the animal hospital while he was there. He was sleeping. I didn't see him. I sat. I held a space of love and light. I meditated. I did a powerful initiation, a space initiation that I know on the hospital, and called all the light and angels and love I could into the hospital itself. And I went home, and I sat, and I sat, and I sat, and I prayed, and I stayed as clear and as balanced as I could, knowing that this was out of my control. But we still didn't know what was wrong with him, what had happened. And they just kept saying, if they only knew, this little guy here, if they only knew what he had eaten, then they could help him. But we did not know. And things were getting really dire. I had several conversations with the doctors about putting him down. And I love this little guy more than anything in the world. There is nothing that would break my heart more than to have to put my little boy down. And anybody that has a dog can understand this, or anyone in your life that you love. You know that when you have to let someone go, it's just a big challenge. But you know, I was facing the truth and knowing that, you know, that was very possible. And so I found myself meditating and sitting and just asking for help, saying, help me find what he got into, because if we can find that, then we can help him. And I just got this thought in my head, it popped in my head, call the woman that found him, tell her and see what she says. So I called her. She's in Louisiana. She said she can't help, but she would call all the vets she could, and she would ask everybody she knows if anybody has any information or ideas on what could have happened. And so then I went, that's it. I'm going to call his vet, because I hadn't called his vet. He was in the hospital in Connecticut. And so I called his vet, and his vet said, well, let me think of all of the different things that could cause this in a dog. And so he started listing them off. And he said, you know, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be rat poison, it could be snail bait. And I went, snail bait? I gotta go. And I hung up the phone and I circled it on the piece of paper and I looked at my parents and I said, snail bait, is there snail bait in our house? And sure enough, I turned around and there it was sitting on the counter, a box of snail bait, slug poison. And I called the vet back and I said, this is it. I found it. It's metaldehyde poisoning. And they said, yes, that's it. That's the same symptoms. Call poison control. We know what to do. And so they were able to sedate him, put him under for a few days as they got the poison out of his system. And he came back. And when I picked him up, there was some question of whether he had brain damage or whether he could still see, because he had seized so badly for so long that we really didn't know the extent of the damage. And here he is. He's okay, my little boy. He can see, he can walk. He's fully functional, and he bounced back. Again, my sweet, sweet angel that I just love so much. So, the point of this story is that when you're in crisis, when you're scared, when you're panicking, sit still as best you can, because when I sat still, that was when I found the answer. By meditating, by tapping into consciousness, by trusting that the answer would come, and it did. And so, if anybody's out there, any of you guys are out there panicking about something right now, this is what you can do to help, right? Stay calm, stay centered. Don't place blame on anybody. If you can, avoid it. Just send love to the person in need, and all will be well, and you can trust that everything's okay. And the other piece of this story is to always, always remember that there was a lesson attached to this, and that was attachment and non-attachment, and the ability to detach and let someone go when the time is right. And I truly believe with all my heart and soul that because I was able to let him go when I needed to, when the time was right, that was the very thing that allowed him to come back to me. So, I hope this resonates with you in some way, shape, or form. It's a very real thing. Disasters, panic, fear, anxiety, things happen, and we need to know what to do. And thanks to this little guy, Archimedes, I have a story to share with you that might help you when it's happening to you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you know anybody that it will help, please share it. Subscribe to my channel. Get on my newsletter, follow me. I love sharing these stories with you. And remember, always, always, always let love be your sword and truth your mission. I'm Katie K. Thanks so much for watching. And Archimedes, thanks you too.